Hello and welcome to APTN National News. I'm Sav Jonesa. Thanks for joining us. The Carney government is going ahead with a promised meeting with Metis leaders in Ottawa on Thursday. The heads of Ontario, Saskatchewan, and Alberta will be there along with the Metis National Council. But it will be without one of the largest Métis organizations in Canada, the Manitoba Métis Federation. APTN's Fraser Needham has that story.
Manitoba Métis Federation President David Chartrand had some strong words for Prime Minister Mark Carney during a press conference in Ottawa on Wednesday morning.
That relationship, to me, is about him, the Prime Minister, the new Prime Minister of this country, not taking the time to understand who the rights holders are and taking the liberty to respect that. We worked 150-something years to get here. And for somebody to come along and just say, well, it doesn't matter, you come to that room because this is who's going to be there, even though your people say you don't go to that, I'm not going to be placed in that position.
At issue is a long-standing battle between the MMF and Métis Nation of Ontario, which the Manitoba Federation does not see as legitimate. It has long accused the MNO of having members who aren't Métis, but MNO President Margaret Froh maintains the MMF simply doesn't have its facts or history straight.
It's unfortunate. The Manitoba Métis Federation's position around this argument that they're making, that all Métis come from the Red River, that they are the Métis government that represents them all, is wrong factually. It doesn't line up with the facts of history. It doesn't line up with contemporary history. The reality is that we are here as a Métis government. We are here to work with other Métis governments and with the Prime Minister in the best interests of the country.
This will please rise.
After the government rammed its contentious Bill C-5 economic development legislation through Parliament this spring, the Prime Minister promised consultative meetings on the legislation with Indigenous rights holders. The Métis Nation of Alberta President Andrea Sandmeyer says her organization supports Bill C-5 in principle.
So we are in support of responsible growth, responsible resource development. But the main thing is that we need to be included, and not an afterthought. We need to be, our input needs to be in every stage of the implementation of C-5, whether it's this Indigenous Advisory Council or the Major Projects Office. We need to have a voice.
The MMF and MNO also say they support Bill C-5 in principle. The NDP maintains consultation meetings on Bill C-5 should have been held with Indigenous groups before the legislation had passed, not after.
It's obvious to me that they don't care about Indigenous people's rights. They don't care truly and sincerely about free, prior, and informed consent, and that they are only holding these meetings to check a box to say that they've met with Indigenous leaders.
The Prime Minister's office has been very tight-lipped about releasing information about Thursday's meeting, but in an email early Wednesday afternoon, the PMO confirmed the meeting will be held in Ottawa's downtown core. Fraser Needham, APTN National News, Ottawa.
After declaring a state of emergency last week in the face of approaching wildfires, the York Factory First Nation in Manitoba says there's another reason for outside help. Smoke from the wildfires is so thick now that planes have been unable to land. The community's ferry was already shut down because of low water levels. With no planes and no ferry, over 600 people are now trapped. On Friday, Chief and Council wrote Premier Wab Kinew and Cabinet Ministers Adrian Sala and Lisa Naylor, asking them to release water from the Churchill River diversion and Lake Winnipeg so ferry service could resume. Chief and Council also wrote that the community water supply is contaminated with silt, and if water were to be released from the dam, the community would have ferry access and the ability to protect the water supply. York Factory leadership has said an all-season road would prevent all of this in the future. Moving up north now, a shooting in the community of Betchiko, Northwest Territories, has left one person dead, with no arrests having been made, authorities say. On July 31st, around 9:10 p.m. local time, Betchiko RCMP were called to an assault at a home in the community. Officers arrived on site to find an unconscious male victim and provided first aid until paramedics arrived. The victim was taken to hospital with life-threatening injuries where he later died. No charges have been laid at this time, and the RCMP's Major Crimes Unit and Forensic Identification Services are investigating the case. Any tips can be passed on to the Betchico RCMP detachment by phone at 867-392-1111 or the Crime Stoppers website. A First Nation in Western Yukon is gearing up to celebrate the completion of its very own solar energy project earlier this spring. The White River First Nation's $24 million Sase energy project in the community of Beaver Creek is the largest solar project in the territory. Its 7 rows of photovoltaic panels cover 7 hectares or 10 soccer fields. The project is capable of generating 1.9 megawatts of electricity, replacing 350,000 liters of diesel fuel per year. That's 55% of the fuel required to meet the community's power needs. The president of White Rivers Development Corporation says the project promotes economic sovereignty by allowing the First Nation to sell power back to its electricity provider, ATCO Electric.
We want to start creating, our own wealth to be less reliant on the federal government, and this helps us along that way for sure. We signed a 30-year energy buyback from ADCO, and so we're guaranteed income for the next 30 years off of this solar project.
The grand opening celebration will take place in Beaver Creek on August 11th. The Assembly of New Brunswick First Nations chiefs held an emergency meeting last week in Fredericton to address the cutbacks to Jordan's Principle program and Bill C-5, which fast-tracks energy projects, and the changes in court legislation for intimate partner violence. The Wolastoqey and Mi'kmaq chiefs met with federal and provincial leadership. Terry Richardson is chief of Pabino Mi'kmaq Nation. He joins us now. Welcome, Chief Richardson. Thank you so much for joining us today. Why did the New Brunswick chiefs call the emergency meeting with the federal and provincial leadership?
Oh, Sab, well, thank you for that question. I guess, we realize with Jordan's Principle, there's a huge backlog right now of cases. And the fact that these cases are backlogged, it has to be addressed. So we met with the Premier, as well as Minister Gomasti, and we asked, what is the province and federal's plan to get rid of this backlog under Jordan's Principle that we have? The fact that we have kids that are falling through the cracks is unacceptable.
Mm-hmm. And was the meeting productive?
I believe so. Our voice was heard. But again, we'll see the devil's in the details, and I guess we'll see what actions are taken on the federal and provincial side. But I think we stress the importance of addressing this backlog under Jordan's Principle, and then setting the parameters in place. Obviously, this was done backwards by Indian Affairs. It was a poorly orchestrated Jordan's Principle. They didn't put enough funding in place to put this into place in the first place. So it is an Indian Affairs responsibility to get this back into track and to ensure that our kids are receiving the funding that they need.
And Chief Richardson, how will the cutbacks to Jordan's Principle impact families and communities? And what do you plan to do to address those cutbacks?
That's a good question, Save. And again, we won't know but I can tell you that there's a lot of kids that need that funding. And those cases that are backlogged, I think we address those cases, get rid of the backlog, and then as we move forward, let's move forward. But, we've got to address that backlog right now.
Yeah, there has been a lot of criticism about Bill C-5, including inadequate consultation with First Nations. What is your position on it?
Well, Saib, I think here in New Brunswick, we have a great relationship with the provincial government. The Premier, she's very good. Her ministers are in tune. We're having talks. Obviously, our concerns are much like across Canada. And I've always said, I support nation building projects, but they can't come at the expense of environmental or the lack of consultation with First Nations. So I think that's really important. And, we need that equity stake for First Nations. And as we grow, as these projects come forward and the economic opportunities are there, we should be the first ones to benefit from those opportunities. So that's our support here in New Brunswick. We've aligned ourselves with the Premier and with her ministers. We've had success with this government. Just recently, we've been in negotiations with a provincial tax agreement, and we're very close to finalizing that. So that shows that you can, if you're at the table and you're negotiating, you can actually get things done. So these things are doable. So I believe on these nation building projects, this is a very trying time across Canada. For First Nations, it's important that we're at the lead of this. And I believe we can take the lead and show that, we can get Canada as a whole through this, but leave us lead.
Yeah, I think that's great. Bill C5 also includes new legislation for the courts to deal with intimate partner violence, including expanding conditional sentences. Do you support this new legislation, and how do you think it will impact the community?
I think it's important. We recently stood up a new division in New Brunswick with the RCMP on human trafficking as well as partner violence. So I think that's important, both sides, violence against women and violence against men. I mean, it's important. It's something that we can't accept, and it causes dysfunctionality in our communities, and it's important that we address that. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how this rolls out and how it's played. I think it's another support for people who have been abused, and I support it.
Well, we'll have to end it there, but thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us, Chief Terry Richardson.
Anytime, Save. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We need to take a quick break, but stick around. We take you to the grounds of one of the longest running powwows on Turtle Island. That's in just a few moments. The longest running powwow in northeastern North America is held every August long weekend on Manitoulin Island. APTN's Annette Francis attended this year's festivities this past weekend and brings us a series of stories this week. Tonight we hear some of the history and how the event has evolved.
Hundreds gathered for the grand entry of Wikwemikong First Nations annual Pow-wow celebration. Among the dancers is Karen Pheasant. She's surprised at this year's crowd.
I'm a university professor in Alberta, so I haven't been to our home powwow in quite a few years. And when I came yesterday morning at 10:30 in the morning, which I thought was early, it was packed. I just cannot get over it. And there's so many people that, today I was pointing at this one or that dancer, and it's my generation. They're retired, and so they're coming back home.
Wikwemikong held its first powwow back in 1961. Pheasant says it was a group of women that wanted to bring the celebration of song and dance to the community.
It's my auntie, Marjorie Mishabinishma, and a few other ladies, Josephine Green, Josephine Pelche, a few of the ladies, most of them were teachers, and they wanted to bring that, and it was a practice that was more common in the prairie provinces. So a delegation of these women went to the prairie provinces, I think it's Saskatchewan, and went to observe, went to watch, and brought kind of a synopsis or a piece of that culture back to Wikwemikong. It was still new. The church to this day still has strong influence and impact. So, and even though it was 1951 when the Indian Act changed, we still were in the mire of it, so to say. And so the powwow came, but it was on a stage in the arena.
Gordy Ojic remembers that time. He and his brother snuck into the old arena to see what was happening. That's what inspired him to learn more about his culture and traditions. He's been dancing ever since.
We're looking at this thing and we see these people sitting on this. It was a stage, mind you. The first time we had a powwow, they used to put that powwow on a stage, like a show, like Country Wild Bill West show. You remember Wild Bill West? West show was, I think that was their idea when they had these Indians. I'll call them Indians because that's the part. When we first seen them, they were Indians to us because we seen them. They had the roach, the Indian gear on. They're practicing and they're singing yo 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 yo, and then me and Scanner going like, nah, let's get.
According to Pheasant, the powwow eventually moved from the stage to these grounds, and interest grew.
During the civil rights era, the late 60s and early 70s, during the American Indian Movement, AIM, there was a big splurge. So we were so huge, we were so big during that time, during the civil rights era of the late 60s, early 70s. And then in 1985, when Bill C-31 and the rights for Indigenous women to regain their rights, I think research has shown that there was a population increase and people wanting to reclaim their identity, their culture. And I do recall in the late 80s, there was another explosion of interest and activity, people returning back to the reserves.
The event draws thousands of visitors every year. Luke Wasagijic says that's why Wikwemikong Tourism has been hosting a cultural pavilion since 2014.
We get a lot of European visitors and a lot of Canadian visitors, but it's also, it's about providing education, right? So we have workshops throughout the weekend on history of the Great Lakes. We have arts presentations. We have a special smoke dance presentation. So it's all about providing educational opportunities for the visitors.
This year's attendance was a record number.
This year is a very large event. We have over 500 dancers. We have a number of drums here. And yesterday I was told within a 2-hour time span, over 3,000 people came through the gates. So it's really showing how big this event has grown for Wikwemikong. And I can't say enough how proud I am of our community, our events coordinators, all the volunteers, and all of the dancers and the drums who have come to participate in our cultural event this weekend.
For Pheasant, the practice of powwow is about cultural sustainability.
Talking with my children, my grandchildren, I'm telling them this isn't just about putting some stuff off and on and hopping around. It's about the sacredness. It's about to incorrectly use an English word, holy. This is very sacred, and I tell my grandchildren, take care of this and it will take care of you as this has taken care of me and now my children.
I'll have more from the powwow tomorrow. Annette Francis, APTN National News, Wikwemikong First Nation.
A young man from a First Nation in Manitoba is about to travel overseas for the first time to play basketball. We'll have that story for you after the break, and trust me, it's a slam dunk. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Time now for our photo of the day. Thanks, Chantel, for this picture from Coulanges Falls, Quebec, a hidden gem a half-hour's drive away from Pembroke, Ontario. Send us your photos to share at aptn.ca for the chance to be featured as our next photo of the day. Time now to take a look at tomorrow's weather forecast. Tomorrow it will be very sunny on the East Coast, 22 in St. John's and 25 in Halifax. 27 in Happy Valley, Goose Bay, and 28 in Kuujjuaq, very sunny there as well. Quebec City will be 28, 29 in Montreal. The sun continues, 26 in London, 28 in Toronto. It will be 29 and a little bit of cloud in Timmins, 25 in Wawa. 9 in sun in Churchill, 28 in rain in Norway House. Winnipeg will be a hot 35 and 23 in sun in Barons River. Regina will be 28, same with Yorkton. 26 in Stony Rapids, 25 in Buffalo Narrows, sunny with both. Over to the west, it's 27 and rainy in Fort McMurray, 20 in rain in Peace River tomorrow. 26 in sun in Medicine Hat, 20 in sun in Edmonton. Vancouver 19, Quesnel 23. Port Nelson, 27 and sun, 26 and sun in Prince George. Rain in Rock River, 23 in Whitehorse. 21 in sun in Yellowknife, 18 in rain in Norman Wells. Sax Harbor is 1 in snowy. Colville Lake will be 8 in rain. Chesterfield will be 10 and sunny. Will Cove will be 8 and lots of sun. Iqaluit will be 14 and partly cloudy, 1 in Resolute. A young man from Ebb and Flow First Nation in Manitoba is heading to Bangkok this fall to play in the Thailand Global Basketball League. Sierra Beddens caught up with the athlete, Seth McKenzie, to hear more about his journey.
After a successful college basketball career, Seth McKenzie was ready to head off the court.
Like no plans of doing anything else. I was just kind of content where things finished.
Then, an opportunity 12 time zones and 12,000 kilometers away came knocking, and he couldn't pass it up.
I saw this opportunity come up of this team was like, hey, like we're looking for players, DM us your film and like we'll talk. So that's exactly what I did.
In September, McKenzie is jetting off to Bangkok, Thailand to play professional basketball.
My team is Overseas Supreme, or it's a part of the Thailand Global Basketball League. It's a league made up of 20 teams, and we're all based in Thailand.
A member of the Ebb and Flow First Nation in Treaty 2, McKenzie grew up in Winnipeg and began playing basketball in grade 7.
My brother influenced me to play basketball. When I first started playing, I wasn't too sure because I wasn't really good, but the more time he took with me, the easier it got, and the more I just fell in love with it instantly.
When senior year rolled around, he was determined to play at the college level.
I just didn't really have the right support that players typically get. When I got to my grade 12 year, I started reaching out to different coaches, and it was always, oh, we're filled, like try again next year, we're not looking for someone your position and size. And then I contacted CMU, and me and the coach got along, hit it off pretty well.
The 6-foot-tall shooting guard played for the Canadian Mennonite University Blazers in Winnipeg for 4 years, where he averaged 16 points per game. After earning his bachelor's degree in psychology, he signed a year-long basketball contract with Columbia Bible College in Abbotsford, BC.
To travel to like Vancouver Island, Kelowna, it was just a wonderful experience that last year for us.
While still in Manitoba, McKenzie is playing for the War Chiefs, an Indigenous men's basketball team. As he prepares for his first adventure overseas, he's looking forward to representing his community on a global stage.
I'm just really excited to represent a lot of people, like myself, Indigenous people, represent Winnipeg at the same time, and just represent who we are.
Sierra Beddens, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
That brings us to the end of our newscast this wonderful Wednesday evening. I hope you were moved by the stories our reporters brought to you today. If you're looking for more information on an issue we shared or to learn about other things impacting Indigenous peoples across Turtle Island, please visit our website at aptnnews.ca. I'm Sav Jonesa, and from all of us here at APTN, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Take care.
Thank you.